Like the hugging story.
I'm just going to read this because my memory
Go, Shan.
Oh, look at this.
Well, I was lucky enough to meet Cal back in '97 on our first day at Rabina Scott. My luscious head of hair and his, or Jess's, exceptional fashion sense from the get-go. We also shared our first guitar lesson and have proved inseparable in that department ever since. The only exception coming when Cal was clever enough to take up the bass guitar straight away and pretty much fly into the primary school rock band with a face-melting rendition of Smoke on the Water. While my more ambitious audition on the electric guitar with some pretty huge, maybe not so huge then, but very talented on the guitar competition. I did not. That was a shorter reference. Since then, it's pretty much revolved around playing music, with the occasional show down at the lacrosse club making an appearance. Not only being in bands together, but even joining somewhat tribal drumming groups at 2 a.m. on a Sunday morning on the corner of Brunswick and Johnston Streets after just the right amount of beers. And before embarking on a rather ambitious and entertaining walk to the city.
We got there in the end.
7 yeah. I remember, surprisingly, after having been jamming away on a djembe for what felt like hours at the time, probably because it was actually hours. Geez, I haven't seen Cal for a while, and wondering why we'd attracted such a large crowd. And looking up behind me to see him dancing like a maniac on top of the tram stop, hitting some drumsticks against a street sign. On behalf of the other guys in the band, I'd like to applaud Cal. Being the most enthusiastic member, and I have to mention the time he walked into the roller door. I know it was, not many people really, you kind of had to be there, but I know it wasn't intentional, but that's what made it the funniest moment in the history of the band so far. And of course he copped the laughter like a champ. We were separated for a few years at primary school there, but I'm so happy to say here we are 16 odd years down the track celebrating your 21st. A few things have changed since those early days, one being that I no longer have a mullet. Let's not focus on my traumatising childhood. Another being the inclusion of Maddie onto the scene. A welcomed inclusion indeed. I should probably also mention the raging passion we share for growing facial hair. Maddie,
Is that you and me?
I apologise greatly for that one, but I'm glad that you finally caved sometime when you were in India. Yeah, like I'll wrap it up there, but happy 21st.
I really wasn't prepared to say anything at all, so... It's an napkin.
Good icebreaker.
I actually first came across Cal in primary school, obviously. But the first time I got to know Cal properly was when Maddie and I were walking home from school one day, and we walked past Cal in an underpass, and Maddie was like, "Oh, that guy's so good looking." I was like, "You've got no chance." Anyway, he's a very good looking guy. It was a difficult sexual time for a young teenage boy, and there was something about Cal's thick curly hair. Anyway, but I'll skip right ahead to when we went travelling. For a little while, Cal was obviously Maddie's boyfriend, but very, very briefly after that, he became one of my best friends. We went travelling together. Me, him, Kieran, Anna, Josie. It was a big crew of us that went. It was a really beautiful experience. Anyway, it emerged very quickly that Cal was more of a doer in this travelling experience. He wanted to do things. He wanted to kick goals. He wanted to see things. I was much more of a sleeper. Anyhow, there's one instance that strikes me as a good night. Anna, myself, Josie and Kieran, we'd had way too much Budapest vodka, and we decided to call it night 11:30. Lost Cal. Turns out Cal had actually met a group of people and went to a rave in a forest. Had a really good time. Anyway, we were feeling really drunk. We'd had too much and actually decided to go to bed. We wake up at 7 o'clock in the morning, and Cal walks in the same clothes as the night before, with his beautiful, fresh face. Doesn't even look drunk, and said, "Good morning, daffodils." it just strikes me as how indicative of that is Cal, you know, just the ability to take hardship and move on with it and make the best of any situation. But there's one thing that it was about travel that has really struck with me, and I wanted to just very briefly tell this story. When I went travelling, and when we all went travelling, it was the first time we'd left our suburb, and it was a very formative period of time for everyone. And I remember sitting on a train once, and I was feeling very sort of sentimental, and I actually took out my iPhone, and anyone's got an iPhone, you know, the notes section, and I wrote a poem in the notes section of the phone about my late father. It was really, I was feeling particularly emotional about it. Anyway, I must have lent my phone to Cal a week later, and I checked my phone, and instead of not mentioning it or wanting to intrude on my privacy, Cal had actually written me a poem of his own, and it was about how beautiful life is and how that hardship doesn't take you back and how that, you know, there's beauty in everything. And I just remember just tearing up, and I still do when I think about it. So that's, I mean, that, if that's not a story that represents Cal, I don't know what is. But I think that indicates a sort of protective level of Cal's personality. And like, if we don't get through this speech without me telling a story that's going to embarrass him, then I haven't done my job. So I was walking home from a club one night in Lisbon with myself, Maddie, a girl called Leanne. No, she wasn't that nice, actually. We were walking home anyway. We were walking back from this club, and we were all absolutely bruised out of our face. So much so that Cal actually ran off into a park to do a whittle. And we were walking home, and we confront this big group of guys, and the guys were like, I can't remember, we got into a fight about some cigarettes or something, and then they were yelling like, excuse my language, I'm like, fuck off, and then we were about to get into a fight, and then the girls were like, no, stay back, and, you know, we felt like it was really tough. Anyway, Cal must have heard the commotion from outside, and in his admirable haste to come to my side and our side, he hadn't done up his pants, so with penis in hand, get him off! Cal with his most frightening weapon didn't scare them off. But I'll just quickly finish now. It's like a small iguana. I just want to say that was a couple of years ago, and I actually received a text from Cal on the 10th of November last year, and I've memorised what it was, and it was, hey fella, smiley face, don't you just love it when you're eating a sandwich and that touch of mayonnaise comes up and tickles your tongue? Have a great day. It's very intimidating to give a speech about someone who's so multidimensional, multifaceted, but I feel like I tried to cover the major points. Cal is an incredible person, and 30 minutes of speeches don't do justice to it, but everyone here knows the incredible impact that Cal's had on them, and his protective, loyal, beautiful friendship and kindness that he gives to everyone. So here's to Cal, everyone.
We've got 2 songs coming.